Well, in Coach's Corner, we're starting a new season this week with, first up is Tipton head wrestling coach Matt Neer. Coach, ready to go? Just come out of the room. Maybe I dropped a couple pounds there. So let's get started by talking about how many guys we got this year.
Well, I'm pretty excited about our numbers this year. Right now we've got 27 wrestlers out, grades 9 through 12, which is, as far as I know, is about the most we've had in at least 18 years since I've been around Tipton. So real happy with those numbers, and
so
it's a good start.
Early on, the room's full with early practices. So what have you been focusing on here early?
Well, we got a pretty good mix of experience as well as some youth, some new wrestlers out that don't have a lot of experience. So, we've been working on basics. I guess that's where you start every year, even, at every level. You got to start with the basics. And we only have one senior, so we're, maybe a little bit still to the youth side than to the experience side. So we've been focusing a lot on just basic position stuff and basic moves, and been going real well so far.
Well, let's skip ahead and talk about that one senior, Cole Cook. It's a good place to start. Leadership, no questions there.
Well, he's a great guy to have in the room. Good work ethic, always works hard. Leads by example. Not real vocal guy, but he's one that you can always count on to be doing the right thing, and like I said, leading by example. Had a great finish to the season last year. Kind of came on in January and beat some pretty good guys down the stretch towards the tournaments, and ended up winning the conference championship and qualifying for the state tournament. So, that's obviously something that the young guys look to those guys with that experience, and like I said, he's a great example. So,
before we jump into the lineup, the projected lineup that we have, let's give a shout out to the coaches. I mean, it looks like another year of teaching, technique, and just all that stuff. So who's on the lineup?
I got a good group of coaches. We've been together for, I think this is probably our third year. A couple guys have been with me for a little longer than that. Chad Ehrig is my head assistant coach. I think this is his third year. I got a couple volunteers. Darren Lenz is a volunteer assistant. Of course, he's got a boy in the room, so but he's been helping out for I think maybe 4 years now. And then Scott Cartwright, who's one of our junior high coaches, helps out quite a bit, especially when the junior high season gets over here in a couple of weeks. He'll be in the room, most nights too, and kind of works out really well. Chad's kind of a bigger guy, so he can work with some of the bigger guys, and Darren and Scott are suited to work with the little guy, some of the smaller guys in the lineup, and so it kind of works out well. I kind of work with the middleweights a little bit more than maybe some of the others, and so it works out real good.
Is there a luxury of having that many coaches? I mean, it seems like some schools have 2, some have 8 or 10.
I mean, the more quality coaches you can get in a practice room, the better you're going to be, because guys can single out and work with individuals on a more regular basis, and help guys with specific areas of their wrestling that they need to work on. So obviously it's to your advantage to have as many quality coaches in the room as you can. So,
well, looking ahead, let's touch on the lineup. Start out with 106.
106, we have Eric Lenz returning. He was our 6-pounder last year. Nice thing about Eric is he actually weighs 106 pounds this year. Last year he weighed in probably most of the time around 95 pounds. So he's a legitimate 6-pounder this year, and he won 20 plus matches last year at that weight. So we look for good things out of him this year, especially now that he can he's got the size to go along with the technique and the skills that he has. So
113, probably Sam.
Well, right now we got a couple freshmen in there that are a little bit inexperienced, just as far as number of years they've wrestled. So we got a couple. Jason Rolfe and Griffin Ormsby are working to that weight. Andrew Gilbert is another 113 pounder that'll be working in there. But I think eventually, Sam Northup is going to try to go down. Sam was our 113 pounder last year, and right now his first couple of meets he wrestled 120. But his plan, I think, is to get down to 113, kind of do it right, get down there gradual, and I think he'll be pretty strong with that weight class too.
That's kind of a strength we're going to have this year, isn't it? Kind of some options at weight classes. This is the first example in the lineup before that's going to come up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have 27 guys, and we still we're not evenly distributed through our lineup. We're a little bit heavy towards the upper middle weights, but we also got a bunch of little guys, which is really nice because some schools don't all have a 6-pounder or a 13-pounder, and we ran into that last night where we were able to send some guys out and score points for us, which is a luxury we haven't had in the past at some of those lower weight classes. So
I mean, it changes up to 12 points, 6 points. And we've lost some close duels. So having those, it's just it's a new year. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So 120, 126.
Right now, like I said, Sam's been wrestling at 120. He'll wrestle at 120 this Saturday at our Tipton tournament. We got a couple other guys right around that. Andrew Gilbert actually weighed in at 120 last night, and got a couple guys at 26. Dylan Binns is a freshman, and Austin Hollers is our varsity, probably going to be our varsity guy at 126. He transferred, they moved up here last year from Davenport, and he's got good wrestling experience, and he's real eager to work and kind of a go-getter. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
132, 138.
132. Right now we don't have anybody in there. That's one of our 2 open weights. Possibility that throughout the season we might be able to move one of those 26-pounders up. 38. Right now Spencer Gritton is a freshman. Wrestled last night, 3 duels, and did a real nice job. Got Kyle Dirks is another wrestler right around that weight. I think eventually Alex Storjahan, who was our 45-pounder last night, will be moving down to 38, and possibly Spencer might be moving down to 32 at some point in time in the next few weeks. So, and I already mentioned, right now Alex Storjahan is wrestling 45. 152 is Clay Keller, who's a junior. 160 is Mitch Chapman, who's a sophomore, a district qualifier last year. Moved up a couple weight classes from 145 last year. But I think eventually probably all those guys are going to go down a weight class.
Right.
Cole Cook started
because
everybody I think can, and I think will be stronger at those weight classes. Some of those guys aren't very far off right now, but if you know how the state, they mandate that we body fat test, and they mandate that you can only lose so much weight a week. It's for the good of the wrestlers, and so they can do it in a controlled manner and a safe way to lose a few pounds. Most of those guys are not that far off. We're talking 3-4 pounds. And so all of those guys eventually will be moving down a weight class, and just they have to, it takes a couple weeks for them to do that. So right now, Mitch, like I said, is at 160. Cole Cook wrestled at 170 last night. We already talked about him a little bit. 182, we have a freshman, Jordan Chalice. was 3-0 last night in our first outing. So he had a real good debut as a freshman, especially at 182. 195, Tanner Cook. Tanner was our varsity guy at 182 last year, and he's a solid 95-pounder this year. So that's probably where he's going to stay, and I think he'll have a good season. And then at 220, we've got Cody Keel, who's also a junior, and actually got a little banged up last night. We're still kind of waiting to get the diagnosis on him and find out, if he's going to be out of the lineup for a little while. We hope not, but kind of hurt a knee a little bit, so bad deal.
285.
Do not have a heavyweight. That's one weight that right now we don't have anybody. So
Okay. As you look through the lineup here, strengths, kind of a mix of returners, leaders, green people. Is it too early to pick out a strength? Can you pick something out that leads you to, or?
Well, I think just based on the last few years, I think one of our strengths is obviously our numbers. I mean, just having the ability to move some guys around if we need to, move a new guy into the lineup if somebody gets injured. And we haven't had that luxury at all the last few years, and we're still a little thin in a couple weights, as we already mentioned, but we do have a little bit of flexibility there to hopefully fill in some of those holes, and so obviously numbers is a huge strength, not only in the dual meets, but just in the practice room. I mean, when you have lots of bodies in there, more guys, you don't have to wrestle with the same guy every night. I think your opportunities to improve are better if you have fresh partners. And
it creates different competition.
Oh
too,
yeah,
right? I mean,
you bet.
You could have a mini round robin tournament.
You
Almost
bet.
if you have 3 guys.
Well, and if you've got 2 or 3 guys that are competing for the same weight class, they're going to pick up their game a little bit.
Right.
Every night at practice, knowing that if they want to make the team, they're going to have to outwork that other guy. So, obviously that's definitely an advantage. Another strength is that most of these guys have been in our room for a couple years. We do have some brand new guys. Obviously, we've got some freshmen, and we've got a good group of freshmen. We've got about 8 or 9 freshmen, which is outstanding. So I mean, those are all good things we got going there. But most of these guys have been around the block a couple times. I don't know that we've got really anybody that's been wrestling forever and ever and ever, but most of these guys have seen it a little bit, have been around in our room a couple years, so we've got very few real rookies, which is kind of nice. So,
well, let's step aside real quick. We have actually some competition to talk about last night with our home meet, so we'll step aside and be right back.